Hi everybody. So this is a short collection of wonderful checkmates, or interesting checkmates, that all from the white perspective, and it was inspired by Christina, who sent me a really beautiful checkmate that she got in a game. Yeah, they're all played by white. We've got 4 games. I'm going to take you through them fairly quickly. We'll look for tactics and interesting things along the way. Okay. Game number 1. So it's 3 games from me, 1 from Christina. So we have a Caro card, and I play Knight C3. I've been scratching around looking for what I want to do against the Caro, and we play the 2 Knights. Okay. Now this is full of tricks and traps, but it seems to me that every time I've played it, we've ended up with my opponent knowing pretty much what to do. And quite often they play their knight out here and they don't fall for the normal traps. Anyway, so I'm not playing this one at the moment. Now black brings his bishop out. You can see I've got the eval, the bar of evil going on. Comes out with the bishop pin. The engine doesn't approve of that, and we can see why. Now this was played a couple of weeks ago. I'm older and wiser now. So right now I would see this pin, and the first thing I would say is he pinning my knight against my queen? I see he is. Do I have a bishop in place looking at that? Okay. Then the final thing to check, does my knight have a safe square to jump to hitting f7? Okay. Now he can't go here because knight takes. However, he can go here. So the correct move here would be bishop takes f7, check. If king takes, knight to g5, check. So we check the king. We've got a discovered attack against the bishop. The king has to move. You cannot block a knight check, so the king has to move. If you can't capture the knight, which you can't. So the king will move somewhere, and then we grab the bishop, and we've won a pawn and a bishop for a knight, but we've also forced the king to move. So black forfeits castling right, since it's going to really struggle to get that rook out into the board. Anyway, but because I was young and naive at the time, I just played d3. And you could hear Stockfish go, no. Right, anyway. My opponent now pushes e6. I kick the bish. We have takes, and I take back with Gary. Gary the g-pawn. Why? Well, I'm glad you asked. I don't think the king's going that way. Right, there's too much space around, right? The king's going this way, and if the king's going this way, having a rook on the open g-file or something is no bad thing, and we will see how that comes in handy to deadly effect very soon. Okay, knight comes out here. I pin the knight, and the computer goes, oh, no, fair enough. But it's more or less inviting him to play bishop e7 and block the pin, which he does. I now push. I'm in an aggressive mood. I'm playing blitz. I've used a whole 41 seconds of my time. I've only got 4 minutes left. Time to go for the throat. Okay, throw caution to the wind and go for the throat. Not really. Anyway, so here, this is a prophylactic move. How about that? Preventing the knight from coming in. So I want my queen here to be able to move, but my queen currently has a job kind of defending this. And I don't want problems with the knight coming in with a fork threat. So a3, prophylactic. Very grown up. Also, in case of this as well, I want a bolt hole for my bishop. So it's not a bad move, and he does play a6. I push on. We now have tension between Freddie and Eddie. Okay, he ignores the tension, comes in with his knight. It really seems like he wants rid of my light squared bishop. I just drop it back into a2. So it crawls backwards into that little hole it's just made for itself. And now we have an exchange on the f-file, okay? Now pay attention to this open g-file, it might come in handy. Computer now favours white. b5, so he's going for counterplay on the queen side. f4 now, hitting the knight, right? I haven't even bothered to castle, okay? We have a relatively close centre of the board. Kind of semi-closed, right? So castling is not always the right thing. Unless I've got a plan for this rook, and I want to get it into the game very soon, unless my king is in danger, which it ain't, right? Maybe not castle, particularly in blitz. So anyway, so we're hitting the knight. Knight comes back to there. Now what do? h4. Go, Harry. Okay. Now he tries to trap my bishop. In fact, it is a trap, but look at the eval. The eval just went from 3.4 to, whoa, what is this? Yeah? He's trapped my bishop. My bishop can't escape, but why doesn't it like it? Why does it think that white is actually better after that move? Okay, well, the best move according to the engine here is actually h5, counter-attacking the knight. I grabbed this knight. Okay, so, yeah, it wasn't really trapped, so I could trade my way out. Yeah. Okay, anyway, so he retakes. I now play queen to d2. This is not the best move. The idea is maybe getting castled and then getting, you know, both of my rooks involved, okay? But I had a more aggressive way to get my queen off the back rank. d2 is kind of, yeah, it's all right. Yeah, it's defending this pawn. But queen to g4 would have done the same thing. Defends the pawn and lines up with the king. So I do that. The computer disapproves. He grabs my pawn with check. And look at, again. So from equal, free pawn, okay? He's got 1, 2, 3 attackers on that pawn. There's only 2 defenders. And the computer hates it. Why? Because he's just done me a blooming favour. He has just removed my Harry from the board, right? And now I have no g-pawn and no h-pawn. Well, how can that be good? Well, look where his king is. That's how it could be good, okay? So I eliminate the bishop. Queen can't recapture with check again. So knight recaptures. Now I castle. Now it's time to get rook number 2 into play. And we also still, notice, have this sneaky little bishop in the corner there. His knight retreats. Not good. Why? Because I have a forced mate, right? If he retreats the knight anywhere other than here, defended by the queen, right, which he does, he disappears over there, and now, what is the sequence? Well, there's actually a few ways about it. I play rook g1, which is the best move, and now there's an immediate tactical threat, which is queen takes h6, and this pawn is pinned by the rook and can't recapture, and then the queen will come into here or here with checkmate, okay? So his king moves, and that's it, mate in 2. Okay, how would you finish this? Queen takes h6 is playable. I play rook takes h6, pawn takes, queen takes, checkmate, game over. All right, and the reason I included that one is because I think it's just a really good example of this tactical or positional weakness being evident from the start of the game. And if we go all the way back to here, and the bishop takes and I recapture with the g-pawn, right? Yeah, I mean, the computer doesn't like it at this point, but it's a very long-term idea, okay? Because he's going to castle this way. And so, you know, it all kind of builds up from there. Anyway, let's flip over to game number 2. And this is the one sent in by Christina. And this is a Sicilian, and Christina is playing the Smith-Morra at the moment. Takes on d4 and c3. Takes, and knight takes. So this is normal mainline Smith-Morra gambit accepted. Black makes move to fianchetto. Bishop comes out to c4. Fianchettos. Queen backs up the bishop, also defends the knight. So now this bishop is not going to take that knight. That would be foolish. Because queen recaptures, and it's hitting the rook. Hasn't damaged white's pawns. It hasn't separated Andy and Barry at all. We're also threatening this. So good move. Very Danish gambit-like move, this. You see this quite often in the Danish. Okay, so e6, very typical. Develops the knight, and castles, and bishop out. Christina's now completed development on move 9. Okay, develops, and centralise the rook. We have a semi-open file on the d file because we have no d-pawn, and therefore it's crying out for a major piece. d5 is played now. Computer disapproves. Because we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces attacking that. So obviously we take the pawn. It's a free pawn, effectively. And now we have, again, this is also a very Danish style move. If the king is uncastled, you can quite often get out of this fork with queen h4 check, very often forcing the knight back there, but that's not on in this case. And here, Christina captures, d takes e6, apparently giving up the queen. Well, well, well. And I'm sure she sat there and went, oh no, my queen. So what is going on here? Well, we have a discovery against black's queen, but let's figure this out. Knight takes queen, we take a queen, rook recaptures, surely we're down a rook. If we win the knight back, or bishop takes knight, we're still down the exchange. So let's see how it works out. Knight takes queen. We don't even take the queen. Boom! My head just exploded, right? This is an in-between move. The queen is there. That's yours. No one's taking that away from you. You know, you're taking that home, okay? And we have a capture with check. Beautiful. And the rook can't take here because then rook takes queen unopposed and we keep the rook. So the only two moves are here, king there or king takes. Holy camoli. The best move is actually king h8. Black plays the best move. Now we have to take the queen. Rook recaptures. Now mate comes in 3. So best next move here is to capture the knight, which is what Christina does. Material is bizarrely equal. Black is up an exchange, but 2 pawns worse off. Okay. Black now captures the knight on c3, and this is not smart. B recaptures. Okay. Now this bishop is an important defender of the king. Right. Notice where the pawns are. These pawns are on light squares, which means that this dark square diagonal is suddenly dangerous. And what does Christina have? Just sitting idly by. A dark squared bishop, right? What black does here is surrender his own dark squared bishop and his only good defender of the dark squares. Because notice also this pawn here is guarding this square. The king can't go there. The king only has one square to go to. And after a5, do you see it? They're very calm, very casual, evil as you like. Bishop e5, and it's checkmate. Checkmate. King is in check. There's nothing that can block. Knight's on the wrong colour. He's just thrown away his dark squared bishop for no reason whatsoever. And the pawn is covering the only potential escape square. Beauty. Now the next game is in a similar theme, right? Talking about kings with a bit of space, kings running out of squares. Okay, so this is one. This is another blitz game I played a little while ago. 1264. I'm now 1470, so I've gone up 200 points. Okay, and we have another Caro-Kann. Excuse me. Now I know the Caro can be fun, like the French. Okay, so again, knight c3. It plays there. I play this 2 knights thing. That's what I was fiddling with at the time. We take the pawn. Okay, so this is the normal kind of 2 knights accepted thing. Thank you, Bentley. That's lovely. And this is what they play, right? This kind of just defuses and refutes it. And if you ever get this position, Caro players know this now. Maybe it's become a bit fashionable. I don't know. So I take and e takes. Now, bishop out. And of course, we're fishing for this. We'd love to see this. But then, of course, right, does it meet the criteria? Well, no. Yes, we've got knight pinned on the queen. Yes, we've got the bishop staring at Freddie. But the problem is, this pawn guards both of these squares, so it's not on. And we can't do, oh no, my queen, because there's the e pawn has moved. Okay. So anyway, bishop comes out, castles, d4, right? This is an important thing that I've been bringing into my game recently. It's never too late to stake your claim on the centre, right? Don't worry that it's move 8, right? If you've got a d pawn or an e pawn still in place, boom, go out for the centre. the more that you watch the engine recommendations, the more that you will see the engine just goes, take the center. Why don't you not take the center? Take the center. Yeah? The fish is screaming at you. Okay. Rook e8. Good move. C3. Just shoring things up. So now we've got a nice solid little pawn chain here. Quite a Caro style pawn chain. And king is safe. Perfect defensive setup here on this side. Black slightly less so because he's given up his knight. Okay. Bishop comes out. We have bishop contest. I say no, thank you very much indeed. And bishop comes to d3. Knight develops. Bishop drops back. Why did the bishop drop back? Well, it's preparing. Queen d3, queen h5 there, and just causing heaps of trouble. Black thinks, oh no, you don't, and pushes f5. Now, bishop out here hitting the queen. Now, it's defended by the knight. So this is one of those attacks that isn't really an attack, right? It's like a telegraphed blow that you know that your opponent has to block, but you're banking on the block. You want the block, right? So bishop comes back here, for example. I mean, if he pushed the pawn there, you know, that would be okay. And now I just dodge backwards and forwards, and now g5. Now he gets frustrated. He blinks. g5, and I have a concession. Right, now he's weakened the pawns around the king. Just don't do it unless you've got a really, really good reason. We've been working through these books, the games in this book, in Chess Bootcamp Live on our Sunday sessions, and you know, one of the things is Chernev quotes a bunch of other, you know, writers who, and one thing that just comes through so clearly is leave the goddamn pawns in front of your king alone unless you absolutely have to move them. It's such a common theme. I think we're going through our fourth game this week, and again, the same thing comes up. Anyway, so you'll have to see it on Sunday. All right, so back comes the bishop, and he pushes again. Like, what is he doing here, right? So, inviting the knight to come forward to e5 in this lovely outpost. Well, I mean, it's not strictly an outpost because it can be harassed by a pawn, but again, moving this f pawn. Is it great? Yeah? Don't know. I mean, the knight's still got an escape. It can still pivot round. Okay, so he takes. I take back with the pawn. Bishop now comes out here. Okay, so we have bishop tension. And then we also have a kind of latent queen issue, right? So if I take here, queen will take, for sure. Because if I take here, queen takes, I win the queen back. I've won myself a bishop, so I take, queen takes, and now you've got to be a bit suspicious about this. Now, however, neither of us now have a dark squared bishop, which we saw as an issue in the last game. Okay, so f4 now, and this is quite a bold move, right? The f pawn is the least critical of these pawns. It's the one that you push the most often, unless your name is Simon, in which case you push the h pawn, right? Now, what I'm doing here is I'm hitting the queen, but I'm inviting an en passant, g takes f3, okay? So if you don't know the en passant rule, when a pawn jumps forward from its starting point 2 squares, and there is a pawn adjacent to that pawn that could have captured it, as it passed through the first square, you're still allowed to capture it. So here we have g takes f3, is how you write it, okay, en passant. Okay, and now what? Obviously this pawn can't take because it's pinned by the queen. So we're going to have either rook takes or queen takes. I take here with a rook. Why? Because it comes with an immediate threat of rook g3, pinning and winning. Pin it and win it. So the king dodges out the way. And now, again, can you see the power of these lurking bishops, these long-range snipers with their high-powered rifles, waiting, just waiting, right? You know that bishop's just going to have something to say about it, right? f4, and you see the eval go here. Why? Why? Because he's just opened up a very long diagonal here. I play queen e4, making one threat, right? This rook is threatening to come to h3 with yet another attacker on there. This rook can also come over. What's this guy doing? He's sitting there, he's asleep. He's got little Z's coming out of his head, right? Queen comes there. Do we want to trade queens? Hell no, right? Drop back, discovered attack on the queen, right? Black here is sweating. Blocks with a bishop. Do I want to trade bishops? Hell no, right? Bishop b3. Now, this was stupid. You can see it was a blunder. Why is it a blunder? Pause if you need. The reason it's a blunder is because I just allowed a pin on my rook, right? If black had been more on the front foot and more looking for threats rather than just parrying blows, this would have quite simply been pretty much winning, going up the exchange into the ending. He does play it. He does play it. Oh no, my rook. Rook comes across. Queen comes across, okay? Now black is +7, -7, right? Black is just all over this game. Takes the rook. I recapture with rook. Right, we're not worried about back ranks. There's only one open file and it happens to be guarded by my bishop. Queen comes down, but I can just slide the rook back. Again, hit the queen right back. Is the queen going to get greedy and capture a pawn on b2? Let's find out. Oh, that was greedy. But look what's happened to the evil bar. It's gone from my opponent has all the evil to I have all the evil. Okay, now what is the right move here? There's only one really good move. A lot of us would be tempted to capture here on f7, okay? And in fact, that is the move that I do, according to, but that then falls to rook f6, what? Rook f8, okay? So if I capture here, it falls to rook f8, then he gets a rook behind his pawn. That is what I do, but what does my opponent do? Grabs a pawn, right? So now, just to back up, the move I should have played is this one. Should have played that, okay? Then I've got 3 attackers on this pawn, right? Now, so he misses that trick, gets greedy, grabs a pawn, and there's one more move of the game. I think there's actually a few options here, but very simply, queen f6. A few different ways he could have won, but queen f6 is lovely. Again, see, hitting the king, and look at this bishop. Bishop's done nothing all game, right? It's just hung around in the corner, and then finally, like that, and it's all over. King has no squares. King can't move, it's game over. Anyway, so let's just look at why, after he takes this, why is this better? Okay, queen takes there, okay, it's all in my favour. So now, for example, let's say his best move was f5 apparently, but let's say queen takes here, like he did before, right? Now I've got this, you know? Oh no, I haven't. Doesn't like that at all. Queen f6 check, and it's mate in 3. Okay, there's nothing to block. King has to go here. Then bishop takes f7 or queen f7. It's both mate in 2. Okay, you go here, there, and that is the same checkmate, really. All good. So anyway, time for one more. All right, so here both rated in the 1300s. Again, we've got the white pieces, and we face a French. b4. So now he's going for a fianchetto. This is, the computer doesn't like this very much, going for this early fianchetto and failing to compete for the centre. So knight out, oh dear, oh dear. So this is like the e6, b6 opening, as Levy so imaginatively named it. Okay, I'll bring out my bishop. I mean, my bishop's biting on granite a bit here, looking at this light square pawn chain, but I like my bishop there, and pawns do move. So knight comes out, pins, bishop out, hitting the queen, blocks. Now this again is a concession. Right, so bishop now drops back, takes. How do I recapture? B pawn. I like to do this very often. If I know that my king's safe here, I'll isolate my own pawn, but I'll give myself an extra pawn in the centre for use in later trading. But I blunder a pawn there. Oh no. I castle. d5. Check. Pushes a pawn. Now look, I mean, really, if you sit back and look at black's situation here, every pawn, apart from the two on the edge, has moved. So the king is starting to look a bit shivery and cold here. Right, where is that king going to get cover? Look at my king in comparison. So always aim for this if you can. Why not? Get your king safe. It's a rock solid setup. Knight defends there, rook defends there, king defends all of them. This king has got nothing around. You know, stuff can land all around that king. Bishop retreats now. Now if he wants to trade bishops, again I capture towards the centre. He takes my knight. Obviously I'm going to take back the queen. Knight comes out, and now I push again in the centre. I want to get rid of his pawns. Why? Because there's a principle at play. I've castled, he ain't. Therefore, we want to explode the centre. It's not rocket science. Okay, it's a principle. Okay, go in there, push again, push again. Computer says that was stupid, right? Bishop takes c5 is fine for black. He doesn't take on c5. He pushes instead. And the computer doesn't like that either. That's definitely a mistake. The reason is because I now have bishop h6. Now I forgot about this. I was not cognizant of this idea at the time. My opponent's king is in the centre. Mine is safe and castled. What should be in my list of things to do? Stop black castling. Right? I didn't. I just played that. Right, that's a weak move, right? I see an outpost. I said, I spy with my little eye, something beginning with O, and I stopped thinking at that point. This is a far stronger move. Now he kicks the bishop. Bishop dives into the outpost. Oh, look, clever me, I found an outpost, right? And I still have this move now as well, actually, which, after he made this silly pawn move, now I have queen h5. So anyway, his knight now retreats. White to play. Over to you. Pause if you need. Queen h5 is actually a lovely crisscross checkmate. There's nothing that can block. It's the end of the game. Thank you very much. Put the pieces back in the box. Take your pint back to the bar and clear off. Lovely, lovely stuff. Anyway, so there you go. What have we learned? We have learned that chess is about multiple factors. We actually had a session in the foundation group, which is the sub 750 group, last night. We had a session on the principles, chess principles. We started working through Bruce Pandolfini's 64 commandments of chess, but only looking at the ones that relate to the opening. There's 16 of those that I think that relate to the opening. Really, really interesting stuff. But what we realised is that even Pandolfini in his commandments, they're not really commandments. So what they are is they are factors that you should consider to inform your choices, your move choices, your candidate move choices, and your ultimate move choice, right? None of them should ever be followed blindly. And he quite often gives conditions and stuff like that. For example, he says, if the centre is locked, okay, it's not so important to castle your king, but generally you should castle early. But generally you should also get your pieces out early, right? So some of these things can conflict. So it's a case of learning them all, right? Having them all present in your mind, and allowing them all to inform your choices, but never to direct your choices, if that makes sense. So with this, what we've seen is sometimes it's the right thing to attack. Sometimes it's the right thing to defend. Sometimes it's the right thing to get your king safe, right? Sometimes it's the right thing to bring more pieces into the game, improve your pieces, so on and so forth. And at all times is there an immediate tactical opportunity or threat, right? But that's what I love about this game. Love it to bits. And I'm almost at my highest ever blitz rating as well, so that's fun as well. Anyway, thanks for watching everyone. Hope you've enjoyed this one. I'll see you soon.